welcome to very first episode of After Hours by RelOps Studio. So yeah, I'm your host Pratik, platform educator Dr. Raut. Like every day we see a lot of LinkedIn posts like celebrating promotions, people got new job, people like celebrating their certification and a lot of community posts like we are doing. But we rarely celebrate our failures. Like kind of little achievements every developer go through a kind of a lot of things in his life in his personal life. So I thought the After Hours by Relapse Studio is a place where I will be hosting a lot of people, a lot of community peoples like platform engineers and some developer advocates, like to know their how they got started into career, what kind of activities they have done, and also what kind of opportunity they have also miss. So yeah, so if someone is watching, if someone who is starting their career in DevRel, in platform engineering, or in the tech industry. So he should at least get to know a better side of technology, like just like going through a LinkedIn scrap. So yeah, that was the initiative about After Us by RelOps Studio. And so actually, this is not a place where we are going to talk about much technical things. Yeah, so because we know 9 to 5 we do a lot of technical things, and after this I don't want to talk again. Like, yeah, we are going to a lot of AI stuffs and all. So yeah, that's about us. And today guest is someone who I know from a lot of time, one of my friend. Yeah. So basically he's a technical writer for advocate. He recently worked at Nextcloud and previously at Only Office. And yeah, he's an open source maintainer. We are not here to discuss a lot of titles actually. We are like here to understand the journey. Ishan has gone through a lot of things. Might in a span of couple of years, he has worked in the tech industry. So yeah, welcome Ishans to the After Us.
Thank you for having me, Pratik. It's a pleasure to be here and talk about the thing that you mentioned that we rarely get to talk about, what happens after the 9 to 5. So yeah, really excited on what is about to unfold and just here to give my insights on my journey and how it was like, how it is like, and what the future holds.
Perfect. Yes, we can do one thing. We can let's ignore LinkedIn or and Twitter for a while. So I just want to know who is Ishan Sawan when nobody is actually watching you.
Question. Ishan is this kid, 22, 23-year-old kid who likes doing a lot of things, likes getting involved in a lot of things, be it inside work or outside work. If you're specifically focusing outside of work, he's a he's a family sort of a guy, lives in Pune, does his 9 to 5 job or the 8 hour job, and once he closes the laptop, maybe he goes out, focuses a lot on fitness. He likes doing a lot of things related to fitness. He likes eating food, like a lot of food. If you ask me anything which is famous in Pune and in and around Pune or even in India, Bangalore for that matter, you can come to me and I'll give you some good suggestions. Cafes, I like brewing coffee, so I have a little coffee bar right here. So when I'm not working, I like making pour over coffees and espresso and all of those fancy things. And yeah, pretty much hiking, trekking. I also love traveling. So yeah, apart from work, yes, I do have a personality and I do a lot of things.
Yeah, that is really beautiful. If anyone is watching this and if you are in Pune and Bangalore, do check out do takes Ishan and get him over a coffee.
Oh yeah, yeah. If you need any suggestions as well, where to go for coffee in Bangalore, Pune, even Hyderabad, Delhi for that matter, for a evening snack or even for dinner, you can text me and I'm sure my suggestions won't disappoint.
Yeah. So okay. So initially we will try to go much into your personal life, like how your career has grown up to till here. Once you
Hmm.
when you start initially, like that may be from contributing to open source project or maybe a internship you have done. So how would you walk us through your journey till now?
So you want me to walk it through? You want me to walk through the journey professionally, or
Yeah, professionally.
what happened in the background? Okay, okay, got it. So when I was in college, naturally, like any other ambitious child, after his 12th standards in India, I took on engineering as my core subject, and I focused. I mean, I majored in computer engineering. So right from the first year, I had this intent to kind of get early in tech, do something worthwhile, and
Hmm.
not focus on college. So as I said, I'm a notorious kid. I always have been. So right in the first year, I got into tech. Deep dive. I learned about networking. I learned about programming, object oriented. I learned C++. I learned Java. All in the first year. In fact, before the first year began. So when I was sitting in the first lecture of the first year in my college, I already knew what networking was. I already knew what object-oriented programming was. And I was sitting there and I was like, "Oh, now these people are going to talk about mechanical engineering and electrical engineering. And then maybe in the second year, they're going to talk about what computer engineering actually is like." So that was my entrance, or I dare say introduction to how the university life was going to look like. And maybe it was the first initial couple of days that I got quite bored seeing
Hmm.
that okay, people are like still in the inceptions and basics. So I thought that let's not attend college altogether, let's sit home and let's learn what we were doing and what we have been doing. So I mean, I won't suggest a lot of students to do that, but yeah, that's what I did. I sat at home. I did a lot of stuff. So after this, I got into open source. I got into contributing to a lot of open source repositories. I got into the CNCF ecosystem. I eventually started contributing, became a maintainer in my second year for a CNCF, project. Then also got in the OSPP open source cohort, which is like a Chinese open source cohort sort of a thing. And then from there on, I got into Only Office as an intern, then a technical writer. Then I dove a little bit into developer evangelism and then the product evangelist altogether, right? What I mentioned on my LinkedIn profile, a technical evangelist. Yeah, a technical evangelist. So that was the journey. And then very recently, I left Only Office and then joined Nextcloud, and then so that's how the journey has been.
Like this is a really awesome. Like how many are you in a tech industry? How many years are you in the tech industry till now?
So it's been almost, I'll complete 4.5, 5 years in a couple of months. So let's say almost half a decade, 4 to 5 years.
Oh, like that is a really good thing. Like so
Yeah, so 2 years before college and 2 years after college, and that makes it four, right? So,
inspire that person. Like for me, that was my a teacher who helped me to get a lot of things in my life, who helped me to understand a lot of things. So I know there might be a like lot of person in everyone's life, right? So I just want to know, was there anyone who actually believe in you before you actually started believing in you?
hmm, interesting. I think for me, it was always the close friend group that I had and my parents. So they knew that this kid is not going to college and he's not performing well in the college subjects. But they also had an idea that yes, he's not sitting at home. In like an idle kind of a situation,
Hmm.
he is doing something. So my mom used to see me on my laptop, and she just I mean used to kind of quote me on it that I hope you are studying. But she kind of believed in me, and she said that okay. She basically trusted the process, and that kind of kept me in the game, kept me motivated. That okay, there are people who, I mean, they are taking it with a pinch of salt, but they are still
Hmm.
supporting me in what I want to do. And eventually, when I did land my first internship, right in my second year, everyone was shocked because, I come from a very humble family. My mom and dad still think that you need to get through your bachelor's and then you need to get into master's and then you'll finally get a job at 25 and
Correct.
26.
Correct.
And even now, when they hear that 20-year-olds and 21-year-olds are getting good and decent jobs in India, they still take it with a pinch of salt and are surprised. But for me, it was definitely my parents and my close friend group who always said that, yeah, you should continue doing what you're doing because you're good at it.
Hmm.
And I think that was my biggest motivating factor.
That is really nice. Actually, more than you believe, your families believe is the kind of thing you actually needed, right? Because
Yeah, yeah. And I was fortunate enough to receive that from my family because I also know that coming from a country like India, not a lot of parents are open to
correct,
unorthodox ways of becoming successful. They are just like, study, 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 score good marks, sit for placements, and then gradually go for masters, then get a good job, get a job in Google, get a job in Microsoft.
correct.
That is when you'll truly be happy. So I know a lot of families tend to think about it this that way. But thankfully, I was able to convince my parents that no, that is not the truth anymore. The tech industry is changing. There are a lot of new things coming. And this was before, AI and all of that started.
Hmm.
Now, I think even they kind of must talk about, I mean, they talk about that, okay, what you were saying that time was right. Because now AI has come in, it has transformed all industries across the world, right?
Completely.
So now they kind of relate to what I was talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was definitely grateful to have such supporting parents who had this belief in me and kept me motivated throughout my preparation, before I believed in myself, as you said.
Yeah, that's correct. One thing like this is this question like a lot of time I even ask myself like, do you ever compare yourselves with someone and think like, okay, I'm never going to reach that level? Because personally, I'm saying whenever I attended any meetups, I went to any conferences, I saw fellow developer advocates, and I was like, okay, yeah, this guy is doing so much crazy things, and one day I want to be that at that level. And then again, I saw my okay, are you really going to reach that level? So that is the kind of thing I always face actually with myself. So I just want to know, like, do you ever think about something like this?
All the time, buddy. So whenever I go to these international conferences and meetups, I see fellow DevRels, fellow engineers having put so much contributions and so much efforts in the community space, in the DevRel
Hmm.
space, in
Correct.
the CNCF space, and I see them and I was like, wow, what is this guy? How will I become, as much as what this guy has achieved, or how when will I achieve something of that sort? But I also have this kind of a realization very soon after I start comparing myself that, okay, what you're doing is not bad either, right? And
Hmm.
you don't necessarily have to reach that stage to call yourself successful. So for me, maybe successful doesn't necessarily relate to a particular person, but rather my achievements and my version 2 or 3 months ago, or let's say 6 months ago. So if I'm successful, then my own version 6 months ago, then I think that is how I like to measure success after that brief period of comparison with a very successful person or someone who is doing great things, let's say in this space, or for that matter any other space, right? So it
Correct.
applies everywhere. So I play guitar, right? And
Hmm.
I see these Instagrammers putting crazy guitar skills on Instagram, and then I see when will I reach that level. But then I also realize that, okay, I am playing the guitar better than what I was 6 months ago. So for me, success, usually I measure it that way. And after that brief period of comparison, I kind of come back to reality and say that, okay, keep doing what you're doing, and you will eventually reach a position which you will like and you will call successful.
Yeah, I think this is a very beautiful thing because like yeah, comparison is good, but you should actually compare with yourself, your younger self. Like, okay, so 6 months before I was at that level, now I am here. Okay, so I have made a good progress, and that's actually kept you going through in your life.
Yeah, the battle is always with yourself, man. The battle is always
Yes,
with yourself. It is never with people around you or people who are doing the same thing as you, but it is always with yourself. Now, if you think that you have considerably moved, in a good direction from where you were 6 months ago, then I think that's the only factor you need to stay motivated throughout the next 6 months.
correct, correct. So I think people learn more from failure rather than like seeing the successful people, right? So just I want to know more about failure like that genuinely change you or that make you understand, okay, so I am doing this kind of thing wrong. I need to change up myself. I need to change my process and do this kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree that failure does teach you a lot of things. In fact, it has been this way throughout my tech or my professional career journey. I've learned a lot more from my failures than I've learned from, other people's experiences.
Hmm.
So that's one thing. So that's just being aware, right? That something like that happens. But when it actually happens with you, that's when you actually go through it, and then you are automatically put in that situation. So now it is your job to get up and start all over again, or whatever that failure situation is. So I think what you learn in that situation is the greatest life lesson and career lesson and professional lesson that you get, especially coming up from a failure. I have failed thousands of times. I got into LFX
Hmm.
mentorship a couple of years ago, I think 2024. if I'm not wrong, or maybe 2025. Regardless, I got into that. People think that, oh, wow, he got into the LFX mentorship. He also got the OSPP mentorship. He's doing some crazy good things. You won't believe I failed 8 times in the LFX mentorship before I got in the ninth time.
Crazy.
So I put in 8 applications to 8 different organizations throughout 4 different years before I got into the LFX mentorship. So people don't know what's happening in the background, right? Even for OSPP, it was the second year that I got in. The first year I got rejected. Even the second year I got rejected for one organization and I lost all hopes. And then a couple of days later, I got the selection email from only office. So failure definitely demotivates you, but it also instigates a fight back ability within you, which you have to take advantage of and leverage it to fight back. That okay, I failed because I was not enough, and as long as you take that as motivation and fight back, I think that's the best thing that you can do after a certain failure. So LFX mentorship was just as an example, but then again, a lot more times have I failed in my life, be it career wise or even professionally in professional roles. But let's not talk about that. I think this was one example that I wanted to put forward. So for me, I did not say that, okay, after the eighth failure or the eighth rejection, I did
Hmm.
not say that, no, there's no way I'm trying again. I never get selected. But I actually did within the ninth time. And I think that's important. Keep trying as long as you get in.
That is absolutely correct because the same kind of thing happened with me, right? But I accept the failure. But like after listening to this, I'm definitely going to apply for next term of
Yeah, yeah,
LFX.
definitely. You should, you should. If you want to do something, you have to do it. I mean, if
Correct,
you
correct.
think that you want to do it, then if you're just backing away from it just because you are not able to do it in the first couple of attempts, then I think that's the worst thing one can do in I mean, that's the wrong way you deal with a failure. The
Hmm.
best way to deal with a failure is basically to rise up and fight back and just make it and then stop.
So if anyone don't know about LFX mentorship is an Linux Foundation mentorship, like which help the open source contributor, like there are a lot of open source projects in the LFX in the Linux Foundation. So if you are contributing to open source, and if you don't know about mentorship, do check out CNCF and LFX. They genuinely help you to be a good contributor, be a good developer, and they will definitely monitor you. So, and yeah,
And also, just to add to it, it is also a paid opportunity.
yes,
So you
correct.
do get
And
compensated for the efforts that you put in.
correct. And if anyone want to know more of it, do DM Ishan. He's also a LFX mentor at Pipe City. And if you want to contribute to Pipe City, do check out Pipe City officials handle and their websites. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So let's move ahead. So that is the one question I really wanted to talk about, and because I'm feeling this kind of thing daily, like because okay. So have you ever been wanted to quit tech?
Every day, trust me, every single morning I think about how my life would have been like if I just had a fancy cafe and a fancy restaurant and I was the owner and I got some set amount of profit every day. I don't want my cafe to be the best in Pune. I just want it to run and so much so that it just makes me decent amount of profit and I don't have to just sit 9 to 5 every day in the next day. But again, that's just being unrealistic. But as long as you love what you're doing, you never have to work. You just do what you just do what you love doing, and then you don't even realize how you reach the end of the week and then eventually the end of the month. So I think everyone in this world someday or the other day thinks that we should quit tech and maybe start something new, maybe start vlogging or start food vlogging or start making coffee professionally. But obviously you can do that eventually if you
Hmm.
want. I'm not saying that it's very unrealistic, but to avoid this feeling of thinking about this every single day, which I was obviously joking by the way, but I do think about it a couple of times. But to minimize this, I think it's important to work where you feel that I love what I'm doing. So once you have that feeling that okay, I really love what I'm doing, you never have to work again. You never have to make yourself get up again the next morning. You don't have to say, oh
Correct.
shit, I have to get
Hmm.
up now. I'm very sleepy. How will I get through the day? How will I get till 5 p.m.? You will automatically do that because you love what you're doing, right? And
Correct.
obviously, everyone needs money. Everyone needs to get paid at a certain point in their life. And I think tech is still one of the easiest and the best ways someone can get into corporate and start earning money quite easily.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. That is the one thing. But yeah, the passion must be there.
Yeah, the passion and the love for what you're doing.
Correct. Correct.
And that is why people say that it's important to choose the right job.
I agree. Looking back in your career, is there any one thing like would you want to change?
The one most important thing that I would like to change about my whole career is probably if I had a mentor in my early stages of getting into this industry, where someone really experienced and willing to guide me through the exact pathway, then
Hmm.
I would have achieved, I think I would have achieved things way faster than what maybe the position I am at right now. But unfortunately, I didn't get one, and whatever I've made it till now is just self-taught. But yeah, I always wish I had someone like a mentor, someone who would tell me what to do, what not to do. So one of the biggest regrets, for example, I have is trying to learn a lot of things at once, trying to get into a lot of things at once, and not going into the depth of a
Of
particular
the thing.
thing. Yeah, of that particular thing. So that costed me the experience. So, okay, this person is really good at X, but for me, it was like this person also knows X, Y, Z, A, B,
Hmm.
C, but
Correct.
it was never like, okay, but this person is really good at A. In my initial days of my
Hmm.
professional journey. So I always wish I had a mentor. But yeah, that's something that I would want to change. I would want to look for a mentor actively so that he or she guides me through my professional journey.
Completely agree because having a mentor is actually blessing in this, right? Because you actually get to know okay, what should we do and what should we not. And more than what should we do, what should we do not is the kind of question we actually needed.
Yeah, and I think you were pretty lucky to have a mentor.
Correct, correct, correct. Yeah, I'm saying I'm pretty much lucky to have a lot of people in my life because initially there were people like initially there was the first person I contact was Rajni. Rajni.
I
Then
know, I
you,
know.
and then lot of people. And actually and honestly from my point of view, whatever you have actually done is still a dream for me actually and many of the people who are currently working in the tech industry. But yeah, that is my point of view for actually. But yeah, mentor is the one person who actually everyone needs.
Fair enough.
So okay. So I think that's a lot of about personal lives. I think yeah. So let's go into the one of the hottest topic everyone wants to know, that is open source.
Okay, I thought you were gonna say AI for a moment, so I was like, oh
No,
shit.
no, no. Okay. So let's start from thing like as a student, how can I start into open source apart from like what everyone like say? Okay, you can just go to pick an project, any open source project and just contribute. What do you want? Other thing you want to try?
As a student, if you want to get into open source, especially I've talked about AI now. So I met this person yesterday. I was shooting this other podcast yesterday, and I said the same thing. AI, AI is always, now that AI is there, it is easier than ever to get into tech. It is
Hmm,
easier than ever to get into open source, provided that you use AI properly and the way it is intended to be. So AI can teach you a lot of things. AI can teach you about the tech. AI can teach you about what the tool is, what the tool does, or what the repository does. What are the rules of the repository? How to start contributing to an open source repository. So it will largely help you get started, I believe. So maybe if a student who is looking to get started, put AI to the right use is the number one tip that I would give because it really helps, although it is quite disregarded in the open source space, AI,
correct.
because as we know, a lot of obvious things like spam PRs and bots and all of that. But as long as you put it to the right use, I think it's largely going to play out in your benefit and it will boost your getting started in open source journey exponentially. So that is one tip, maybe. And the second tip is do not give up because I see a lot of people who start with open source
Hmm,
who maybe even fix two or three simple issues which are non-technical, maybe something in documentation or maybe something in a blog like a spelling mistake, and then they eventually say that okay, but this is not going to get me anything because open source doesn't get you instant gratification, right?
correct,
So it's
correct.
not like okay, you fix an issue and then you get paid $10. It's never like that in open source, right?
Hmm,
So if you're looking at open source career wise and if you want to make something big in your career as taking open source as a basis and as a credibility factor in what you've done in your professional journey, then I think you should not give up and you should continue what you're doing, because open source is a space which takes time to get into. So
Hmm.
maybe now, or maybe let's say in the next 30 days even, you're solving these small issues, but once people see your efforts, I'm sure maintainers and other contributors and members of that particular repository or organization would definitely reach out to you and say that, hey, would you want to work on this issue, or would you want to work on that issue, or maybe you can have a look at this and try contributing. If you have any problem, you can reach out to us. The main point here is to not give up and just stick at it. Just stick
Correct.
at contributing, and eventually, from those non-technical issues and PRs, go into the technical stuff, from small to medium to then actually building a feature for that particular project. So
Yeah,
that's
completely
the
agree.
second tip that I would give.
Okay, so I think this is a the question I'm going to ask. I think it is a more debatable questions. I think because do people actually contribute to open source because they love or because they want job or something kind of maintenance, paid maintenance?
I talked about this yesterday as well. So I think there are both sides to it, and neither one is necessarily wrong. If you want to contribute to open source only to build your career, go for it. I mean, as long as you are putting in credible contributions, valuable contributions, but you know that you're doing it for your career, go for it. But just don't, you know, I see a lot of people who get into open source just because they want to get the mentorship. And once the mentorship is done, then they disappear,
Correct.
but that hurts the values of open source, right?
Hmm.
So your intent should be, I think your intent plays a key role here. So if your intent is to stick to the project and be a part of that project even after the mentorship, and you're also trying to focus on your career, I think that's the best match that you can have, probably. If that is where your values are and that's where you align, then go for it. If you want to do it for your career but also stay an integral part of that project, because it's always good to be associated with open source projects, right? But if you want to contribute to open source just because you love something, or if you just because you want to help that particular community make that product better, which a lot of people do, especially outside India. When I go to conferences and open source meetups outside India, I hear people saying that I just contribute to the Linux kernel because I love contributing to Linux kernel, right? Because it's such a beautiful thing. Linux kernel is, it gave me an alternative for Windows and I love it and I love contributing to it. And till now, they have not leveraged that anywhere career wise. I know people who just sit at home and contribute without getting a proper job or whatever. They just maintain the Linux kernel. So even that is not wrong. If you are passionate about something, as long as it gives you happiness, I think
Correct.
you can continue doing what you're doing. But using open source as a means to get a job or get an internship or get a mentorship, and then leaving it all together and then trying the same thing somewhere else, that's just
Hmm.
hopping, and that will, although give you the mentorship, it will not give you the real fun and the real experience that open source was intended to give. You're not
Correct.
speaking to a lot
Completely
of
agree.
people, working with a lot of people, long term impact on a project, being a
Huh.
core maintainer of a project. So yeah, I mean, nothing is wrong here, but if you were to ask me, I would suggest that, yeah, do it for your career, but also experience this long term benefits that an open source project has to give you.
That makes sense. So, like, because as you know, you are pipe city maintainer, and I'm also open telemeter docs maintainer. And one thing we most commonly see is the AI generated PR, AI generated stuff, right? So, I just want to know, like, how AI generated PR make our life easier or tough. I just want to hear from my fellow maintainer. Like, what do you think?
I think if the AI generated PR is good, it's going to help the project. So the project that I'm maintaining right now, in fact, both the projects that I'm maintaining right now, in Pipe CD, we encourage AI generated PRs. As long as you know what you're doing and as long as you have a foundation in your mind set up, you have the foundational knowledge, and then you open an AI generated PR, I think it should be fine. But if you want to contribute just for the sake of it and you do it using AI and you have no idea what you're doing, then that creates a lot of trouble.
Correct, correct.
Yeah, so if that's the case, then the maintainers are going to have a hard time. People who actually want to work on that issue are going to have a hard time. Other contributors and other reviewers are also going to have a hard time. And that is why I think AI contributions have become infamous in the open source community. rather than something to be looked up to, because a lot of people put it to a bad use. But again, I think if you put it to a good use, which I said, get into the open source project using AI, learn about the repository using AI,
Hmm.
learn about what the technology is using AI. I think, or even craft a PR using AI, as long as you know what you're working on and what part you're editing. I think all of these are good cases of using an AI agent or maybe an AI tool. But the moment you start to use AI just to, open PRs without having any knowledge of what you're doing, that's where the problem starts, I think.
But I think apart from this, in India actually, I'm talking about just in India. Like currently, we have a lot of open source programs upcoming time, like that for example, Hacks, right? So a lot of college students, or I mean, say a lot of students, a lot of peoples, just starting, like just contributing to get some swags. So this kind of practice is actually bad for a maintainer and bad for a project.
Fair
Correct.
enough. It is bad. That's
So.
why Hacktoberfest people stopped giving a t-shirt. Now they only plant a plant. So naturally, if you see now Hacktoberfest, I think there was this dip as soon as they announced that they are going to just give out, they are going to plant a plant under your name and not give you a t-shirt. I think I have not heard Hacktoberfest at all in the last 2 years. So
Correct, correct.
again, even these open source cohort people and in general everyone across the world is now realizing that people are using open source as a means to achieve something,
Hmm.
be it a mentorship or be it a t-shirt or whatever, right? Be it a swag item or anything simple, because people in India love gratification.
Ah,
If I do something, I get something, right? So
correct.
that is the driving force, and it's not wrong in India because we have been brought up that way. In a population of 1.7 billion people, you have to compete in a way and faster than 100 other people. So I think the mentality here is not the problem. I mean, sorry, the mentality is not a problem because the bottom was done that way. But I think the
Hmm.
mentality is now changing, especially with organizations pulling up these moves. So they stopped t-shirts. Hacktober stopped
Correct.
t-shirts. LFX mentorship dropped their stipend from 3,000
Hmm.
to 1,300. So now what happens is all of these people who wanted to get into it just for, the motive of getting that money into their bank account or getting that t-shirt will now drop. But people who genuinely still want to participate in open source will continue to apply and continue to stay and continue to compete in the Hacktoberfest. So it has kind of
Hmm.
been a filter where the unnecessary noise has been cut, but people who are still really interested and motivated and want to do what they want to do would still continue to do it. So I think if you were to ask my opinion on the LFX thing that happened, a lot of people are unhappy, but maybe it's not also wrong from an organizational point of view, where if they see a particular area in the world is trying so hard for a thing, let's see if we reduce the stipend what happens. And I'm sure the numbers will drop this time
Correct.
around.
Definitely.
Pretty sure the numbers will drop as what happened with Hacktoberfest. But if you see the same numbers for Hacktoberfest outside of India, there was not that huge of a drop because people were never doing it for the sake of 5 PRs.
Hmm.
People were always doing it for the sake of, okay, open source involvement. And the same goes with LFX mentorship. Let's see what happens. Interested because the term 3, the applications are now open,
Yes.
and
Huh.
by the end of this month we would get the demographic data on how many people applied, how many people rejected, and all of that. So yeah, excited to see that. But I think what I put about it. So that's the holistic thing that I wanted to put forward. That the achievement factor,
Hmm.
as long as soon as you remove it, then it acts kind of as a filter, and you
Hmm.
get
Hmm.
the real people who actually want to do what they want.
So, initially in my career, I was like seeing a lot of Devrel. That may be Ritik, that may be Sayam. Okay, so and I was thinking, okay, Devrel is about all about travel, going to conferences, posting on a social media, and giving a talk. But when I got into Devrel, okay, I got a reality check, right? So, I yeah, from like you have been into Devrel for 3 and 4 years now, right? So I just want to know about what's the reality for you. And one thing
If you
I just want to know the difference between DevRel in outside India and in India.
Okay, perfect. So answering your second question before the first one, I have been fortunate. I would rather say to be working only for companies outside of India. But not that I do not want to work for companies inside India, but I have heard a lot of stories about company politics and overworking policies and all of that. But again, maybe what I'm going to say would not be as accurate for the Indian
Hmm.
DevRel part, but I would want to put out a perspective, right? Having done DevRel for the last 3.5 years, one thing is pretty clear: the role of DevRel is never defined. The
Co-
role of DevRel is, yeah, the role of DevRel is different for every single company.
Hmm.
So for company A, DevRel can just be social media, while for company B, DevRel can just be documentation, and for company C, DevRel can just be events and travel and conferences. That's all. So I think DevRel is the most versatile role in the tech industry right now. You have to be a fast moving person. You have to wear whatever hat that comes flying at you. So one day you're doing documentation, the other day you're participating in a code release or in a feature release, writing code with the developers. The next day you are taking an 8 hour flight to the US and speaking at a conference. And the next day you are having a mic in front of you and creating a content, or maybe vlogging at your booth, or even posting on social media. So DevRel is pretty versatile, and it encompasses a lot of different things that maybe a different company can have three or even four roles to do all of those or carry out all of those functions together. But that's the fun part of being a DevRel, right? You're never stable. And for
Huh.
me, being a type A personality guy, I always love not being stable. I always love trying out new things and doing something which is exciting, which sounds fun. And just to give you a little more context. So at Only Office, I did DevRel, right? But it was not DevRel, it was evangelism. So the whole product evangelism. We had a developer toolkit. We had developer SDKs as well, which I advocated for quite a bit as well. But it was mostly events and travel, right? The focus was mostly event and travel and some content and then documentation. So no code at all. But I went into Nextcloud and then I see that okay, I have to participate in code releases, to write documentation. I have to also participate in events as well and conferences. But social media is not my job. They're like, no, that's part of marketing. Several function sits in engineering. And I believe this distinction is well that I think it's the most heated debate in the DevRel space. DevRel should be in engineering or
In marketing.
marketing, right? That's the biggest question that people ask. Everyone asks everyone, are you in marketing or are you in engineering? So I have experienced both sides of it. At Only Office, I was in the marketing team. At Nextcloud, although a short span, it was an engineering team. And after taking these experiences across organizations, I feel that either DevRel should be a separate function, which is a bridge between the engineering and the marketing team, or if you don't want to go out of your way and take that effort, just put DevRel in marketing.
Hmm.
Because DevRel at
Makes
the
sense.
end, yeah, at the end, DevRel is going to be marketing. DevRel is just marketing,
Huh.
and it's just you have to be technically sound. You have to be able to participate in these code reviews, these feature releases, and talk to developers in a way that makes sense to them, and you understand what they're trying to say. But most of your job function is related to outreach, right? Be
Hmm.
it in forms of targeted developer articles, posts, blogs, forums, community. So I think developer, if you don't want to go out of your way and make DevRel a different function or a parallel function to marketing and engineering, then just put DevRel in marketing.
Currently, completely makes sense. Because currently, I'm also working as a dev at like Dr. Roy, and my role is around like all of three. Because we are a small team, I'm handling marketing, I'm also handling event and conferences, I'm also handling the docs, and also contributing to code. So, actually, it also depends on the company's requirement, like what they actually want from you. But yeah, pretty interesting role.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying do not put DevRel in engineering, but what I want to say is DevRel suits more in marketing than it suits in engineering, but doesn't mean that you can't put DevRel in engineering,
Hmm.
right? At the
Hmm.
end of the day, it's what the company sees fit. So
Hmm.
if the company wants someone to contribute to the code and make content, and that person is good at both of those things, then sure, you got the person that you were looking for, and it's a perfect match.
Yeah, makes sense. So, like one thing, if someone want to like start their career in developer advocacy, developer, yeah, or as a tech lead or writer, so what's the first thing you should like you want to tell him?
Interesting. Maybe I'll talk about technical writing first, and then I'll get into developer advocacy and developer
Okay.
relations after that.
So before that, I just want to clarify because when I got into DevRel, so a lot of people said to me, okay, DevRel is more about marketing because and you should start into the technical role first and then go to the marketing, right? So I just like wanted to know from this perspective if it is good to directly go into DevRel or if work as a 2 3 year in a technical role and then migrate to DevRel.
I think to answer that question, to be a DevRel, you have to have a certain amount of experience in something which is not DevRel before.
Hmm.
So nowadays I see, because DevRel is that most glamorous
Yes,
role,
yes,
right?
yes,
So
yes.
all of these college kids are fascinated by seeing other DevRels because, oh my God, he's traveling to X country, he's traveling to Y country. He got a mic, he got a MacBook, and he's doing such a cool job. His job is remote. So it's naturally fascinating. They obviously don't know what a DevRel has to go throughout the day through. But so I see a lot of new age career people trying to get into DevRel as their first gig, which
Hmm.
is maybe not wrong, but I would say it's also not the right thing because you need some amount of experience in a function that is not DevRel but is related to DevRel. So either it can be something like a marketing gig, or it can be something like a semi-technical marketing gig, which is what technical writing is, or it can be a purely technical thing. So you can be a software engineer for 1 or 2 years, or even 1 year for that matter, and then get into DevRel. Or you can be a technical writer for 2 years and then get into DevRel. Or you can be a product marketing manager or a marketeer for a year or two and then get into DevRel. But what's important here is that the DevRel switch is always about learning. So if you're coming from a software background and you're going to DevRel, then you have to learn about the marketing tactics and strategies, at least some,
Hmm.
right? You can't
Hmm.
be like, okay, I've written code all my life and now I'm getting into DevRel and I do not need to know anything about marketing. That's not how it works. You gotta learn marketing at least a little, because at the end you're going to talk to developers with marketing in the back of your mind, although you don't want to show developers that you're marketing to them,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So you have to learn marketing if you're coming from a purely technical role. If you're going in from marketing to DevRel, then you have to learn a little bit about the technical aspects and technical sides. If you're going from technical writer, maybe you have to again learn about some deep technical aspects that you might not be aware of. So I think one role before DevRel always helps. At least, even for that matter, if you do an internship for a year as a DevRel, or in that internship, you let's say your first internship was a DevRel, but you mostly wrote code in that internship. Even that works, but you need to have some experience with both the sides. So, or at least one side, at least the software side or the marketing side. So taking DevRel as the first role in your journey is something that I would not suggest, because yeah, there are a lot of metrics and KPIs and other things that you might not be aware of when it comes to DevRel, right? So that is my take on it. And to answer your second question, which was I believe about technical writing, how to
Yeah,
get
like
into technical writing, right?
yes, yes.
If you want to get into technical writing, if it was 2 years ago, I would have suggested that you can check out programs like GSOT, Google
Hmm.
Summer of Docs. But
Hmm.
they just put an end to it 2 years ago
Huh.
or 1 year ago.
Yes.
So that doesn't exist anymore. But that said, even the LFX mentorship has a lot of documentation gigs, which, apart from being a paid opportunity, you also get a lot to learn from it. So you get to learn about how documentation is usually written, how to use Gitbook, how to use Madcap Flare, how to use MK Docs, how to use Docusaurus, how do you write documentation for APIs, what is the difference between customer facing documentation, developer facing documentation, internal documentation, user facing documentation, and all of those things. So when you naturally get to know about these things, you also get to know about what you're writing about.
Hmm.
But for me, I was writing about my product, which was OnlyOffice. So I naturally had a pretty good idea about what OnlyOffice is. And when I did my first event, it felt like a natural progression from my technical writing role. And also, technical writing and evangelism both sat in the marketing team, so that also helped for me. So I didn't have to actually change teams to get into evangelism. But to get into technical writing, which was the main point, I think the best thing you can do is to get into technical writing first. So technical writing is something that you should not target, but rather come to a conclusion that I want to do technical writing. So first, try to explore. If you don't like software, but you like writing about software, if you writing a lot of blogs about software or something adjacent to it, then yes, technical writing is for you. But I think if you really love writing code, or if you love coding, or maybe if you love cloud, AWS,
Hmm.
GCP, and all of those things, then maybe DevOps or software engineering roles are the best fit for you, right? Or maybe if you just love managing a community, hosting a lot of events, doing a lot of events, making events and success, then maybe community engineering or community management is for you. So technical writing is not something to target, but rather something to come to a conclusion of, "Ki, okay, I want to do technical writing."
So basically,
Depends on.
I just want to point add a one point. Will technical writing will make sense in the upcoming year? Because as you can see, a lot of people are currently like using AI to write blogs, that may be article, their post, LinkedIn post. So will it make sense to write like to target as a tech? I want to be a technical writer in the upcoming years.
Yeah, I think definitely technical writing as a function, I don't see it vanishing in the next 5 or 10 years, because I myself have used AI to write a lot of documentation and it really sucks. I've tried doing it multiple amount of times, but documentation, we always say that when you write documentation, especially for a technical product, you have to make it as human as possible. And it is not about the right word, or it is not about the right sentence formation, but it is rather about how an unknown person understands what you've written. So let's say I write the best documentation with the best words in English using AI
Hmm.
tool, but you as a user or as a developer, you don't understand what I've written, or maybe something that I wrote on myself, you understand that better rather than the AI created documentation. And that is always the case. At least now, AI tools are not capable of writing documentation that is the best for, especially for developer tools, something that is understood, something that is easy to read, and something that avoids a lot of jargon. So if you, let's say, use any AI tool you want and try creating a documentation, you will most definitely see all of these jargon words put in there, and some filler words like, and
Correct.
that's the point that, and that's the exact point that you need to get right, dashes and all of
Hmm.
those jargon words that you need to avoid. So you would never see a technical documentation using these languages. So I feel that people who are really skilled at what they are doing, in this case technical writing, they are definitely going to stay relevant at least for the next 5 to 10 years. And above that limit, I think we are not sure about any role for that matter. So even software engineering, I think SWE roles should be the first ones that are the most vulnerable. I think technical writing comes next, because AI does write pretty good code,
Huh.
much better than it writes documentation. So yeah, I think although AI is affecting some technical writers and some part of technical writing, I don't see companies trying to lay off thousands and thousands of technical writers from now on. It has happened previously, but I'm sure companies are having their regrets doing that. So yeah, for me at least, in my opinion, technical writing, I don't see it vanishing in the next 5 to 10 years.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah. So That that's from actually from the open source and developer advocacy perspective. And now I think we should have to move to one of the trending topic, that is AI and startup in India, because I'm in Bangalore and I hear about AI and startups and this kind of terminology. So I just want to know how much this technology has affected your work. Like, is there anything you want to learn more in this, or is there anything kind of thing that you want to take care of while going ahead?
When it comes to AI in my career? Well, interesting. I think AI is itself a pretty interesting topic, and the more you learn about it, the lesser it is.
The lesser
So
it is.
every weekend, someone comes up with something new. So I recently saw a sort of a meme on Twitter that there was this open close photo, and then the caption was "Bro vanished like it never existed." So
Correct.
things come, a new thing comes. So the Hermes model became popular. Now everyone runs Hermes,
Hmm.
right? And OpenGlow vanished.
Huh.
New things keep coming, they keep going. Someone will come up with something new. So now everyone is talking about the Kimi K3 model, the Kimi K3 language model. And the conversation kind of shifted from Fable to Kimi K3, that, oh my God, Kimi K3 is the best for SWE benchmarks.
Huh.
So I think every week something new is going to come. As long as You have your foundation set in AI. You know what AI does. You know what all use cases you can achieve using the AI that you love using, be it Claude, ChatGPT, or whatever. Especially this function, which is the DevRel function or the technical writing function for that matter. I already talked about technical writing function, that it is not going to affect that function as much as it is going to affect the SWE roles, SWE,
Hmm.
SDE roles. So for DevRel, I think it's the same. So AI has definitely become something to rely on when there's nobody else. It has made your workflow easier. It has made your you know content pipelines easier. It has made your social media postings easier, even documentation for that matter. Apart from that, AI is not something that DevRels need to worry about, of taking their jobs, because yeah, I just don't see AI getting into DevRel and kind of starting to take people's job, because DevRel is more of a human role
Huh.
as compared to something like an engineering role, or even for that matter a technical writing role, right? Because you need to do events, you need to run conferences,
You have to,
hackathons, and whatnot.
yeah, correct, correct. You have to manage a lot of conferences and go to their also conference speaking. So yeah, so like, and what is the one of your favorite open source project which which you want to contribute or you are contributing now apart from you are maintaining
I recently contributed to Helm.
hell.
Yeah, because I just wanted to. Everyone uses Helm.
Yeah.
So Kubernetes Helm. I also want to contribute to Kubernetes for a long, long time now, just because it's such a fascinating project. But unfortunately, I couldn't find time in my day-to-day life, right, to contribute to Kubernetes. But yeah, I think Kubernetes also remains on the top three of my best favorite open source projects list. Kubernetes is on there. I mean, you just put me in a spot, but a lot of open source for OpenClaw for that matter. Even though people say it's disappearing, OpenClaw is a good open source project. I recently came across something called Open Whisper, which is the
Huh.
open source alternative for WhisperFlow.
It's so low.
Yeah, so that, and yeah, a lot more. You said I shouldn't name the projects that I am already maintaining, so I tried giving you a variety of names.
Yeah. Alright. So yes, and the one thing, is there any other is there any kind of startups, Indian startups or a Indian company like you are actually looking? Okay, so these guys are doing great. Expect from us.
Yeah, yeah, of course. I think Dr. Droid is doing a pretty good job in the cloud space, definitely. With all of your, uh, I think you're working in the cloud and the
Yeah,
when you
yeah,
push to production.
sorry. Yeah, sorry.
AISRE,
Yeah.
AISRE space, right? When you push to production and then something breaks, and then that
Yes, yes,
space you're
correct.
working. Pretty good. Dr. Droid is doing a pretty good job.
So, and yeah, finally, imagine your younger Ishan self is watching the episode, is watching the work you do. Like, what is the one thing you want to you want him to hear actually?
Interesting. How do you ask such interesting questions, man? Interesting. A tip that I would give younger Ishan, maybe starting his tech journey after, let's say, his high school, which is 12th standard, is basically go to college, enjoy your college days, because they are not going to come back. So it's great what you did. It's great that you sat at home. You learned a great deal about tech. You got into open source. You did pretty cool stuff in the cloud native ecosystem, open source ecosystem. You got a job when you were still in your third year. But I would say that you still had a lot of time to go to college, enjoy those days, spend some time with friends and folks in the college, and because it's a once in a lifetime kind of an opportunity to experience that. Now you never, I mean, if I'm talking to the younger Ishan, now you never know if you're going to do a master's or not, if you're going to ever experience being in college at that, but especially never at that particular age. So even if I do later down the line maybe a major in something which is my post graduation, I would not be 20, 19, 20, 21, a pretty young soul talking to a lot of friends and people. Yeah, go to college, you had a lot of time, you wasted a lot of time doing some unnecessary things. Avoid doing that, and just live your life maybe better than what you did, what I did. And that's something that I would tell my younger Ishan.
I think that is really beautiful because what you have actually said now, it completely makes sense to me because I
Yeah.
feel I feel My journey was similar because I also started in first job itself, like to get into techs, and I did my first of internship in ending of the second year. And I feel I haven't also enjoyed a lot of college thing. I haven't enjoyed with most of my friends, and yeah, that is also one thing I want to. If I make something good in life, that is the one thing, one advice I want to give to a student, like enjoy yourselves, because the college time is a precious time. I think.
And it never comes back, as I
Yes,
said.
correct,
So
correct.
you will never be 19 again in a college in Pune. You might be 25, you will be studying in Harvard, but the situation and the scenario would be different. So maybe you will not have such fun people around you that you'll get to enjoy with in the future. And it's really a unique experience, because it's your undergraduate degree, 4 years of college, and such a precious experience that if you don't want to live it to the fullest, that is fine, but at least try to live it as much as you.
That's it, Ishan, from my side. This has been such a like wonderful conversation with you. I'm pretty happy because I didn't talk about AI and startup and open source, but like we also explore the experience you had, the life you actually live, and the kind of people what people actually will think about you while going ahead. Yeah, like thank you for being the very first guest for After Us by RelOps Studio. To everyone if you like the episode, do like us, do subscribe us. Each and if you want to share something, yeah, please go ahead.
So I would like to say Pratik is doing some pretty cool work with RelOps, with his podcasts, even at Dr. Droid. He is attending a lot of meetups, pretty active in the ecosystem. And do subscribe to Pratik. I think he's definitely going to bring a lot more experienced and interesting folks that you would want to see on After Hours, I think it is.
Yes, yes.
And it's always a great chance to kind of dive into or get some insights of the personal lives of these DevRel folks who always put so much time in the community. What do they do when they are not putting their time into the community, which also kind of motivates you to find your hobbies, find your niche, and do something which is not related to tech. So yeah, pretty cool initiative by Pratik. Make sure you subscribe and follow him so that you get all the notifications for the future episodes.
Thank you, Ishan. And also, yeah, also thanks to Dr. Dodd for giving us the space for hosting the episode.